I've made over $1 million profit using AI. If it was so easy, then why isn't there hundreds of millions of people becoming millionaires using ChatGPT? Right? If you don't adapt to what's working right now, you're going to get left behind. 9 months, I struggled. I must have racked up like $40,000 worth of debt. And I had no income. This was like, I was just drowning in debt. By the time I was 23, my third year online, full time, I made $1.2 million. Before I turned 30 years old, I made my first $30 million cash. I remember calling my dad and said, "Dad, I did it. I'm a millionaire now." He's like, "Okay, son, don't tell no one." If you master the art of lead generation, where so many people are coming to you instead of you are going to them, you'd never be poor. Wealthy people, they create once, it sells forever. You're never too young.
Welcome to the show, everyone. And we are here blessed today to have Shakir Hussain in the house doing our podcast here. And of course, he's the creator of funnels.com, also wealthacademy.com, and the author of this lovely book, Backpack Millionaire. And most importantly, he's my mentor.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we have so much to go over. So first of all, do you want to give a brief little background of yourself, because in case the audience
Yeah, absolutely. Well, most people will not know who I am, and that's okay. And so my name is Shakir Hussain. Like Tatiana said, I was very fortunate. Growing up, I had most amazing parents. I come from a family of 6, and my father taught me basically, if you work hard and if you do whatever it takes, you can achieve what most people don't have. And so kind of that stuck with me from an early age. And I guess, when I was like 12, 13 years old, he used to take me to these markets. I think they call it flea markets in America. Flea markets where people are there, they've got stalls and they're selling. And I was so obsessed. I was, every week, there was my favorite time of the day. Every Sunday, it was called the Sunday market. And I would think to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to have a fruit and vegetable stall. I'm going to have a clothes stall. I'm going to sell electronics. I'm going to just be like those people that just, once it was just like the coolest thing where they were selling stuff. And I thought to myself, man, that's the skill I want to learn. And then there was this one specific guy, I never forget him. He would be, so everyone's selling, clothes and fruits and chocolates and whatever. But there was this one specific guy. He would get on in the back of his van, and he had a big microphone, and he would be selling electronics like juices and electronic, knife cutters or whatever it was. And I just, he would basically make the pitch, and then people would just rush with like money in their hand. And
wow. What a visual.
What a visual, right? Literally, he would say, it's like, it's worth £100, but you can get it for like a tenner. Who's got a tenner? And everyone would be showing off. And I just used to think, apart from my dad being the coolest dad ever, I used to think these people are so cool. Like, they ask for money. And so very early on, I got into the game of selling. So I would sell one-to-one, whether it's clothes, electronics, like I would knock on someone's door. I had this great line, which was, knock on someone's door. As soon as they opened the door, I'd say, "One man's trash is another man's treasure." And they'd be like, "What?" And at the time I was like a little chunky little kid, with long greasy hair. I had like hair up to here. So imagine I showed up to your house and I'm like, "One man's trash is another man's treasure." And you'd be like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" And I'd say, "Hey, listen, I'm a commission-only eBay power seller. I can sell your products."
Wow.
And so, I had this whole line.
How old were you?
I must have been like, I don't know, maybe anywhere from like 15, 16, 17 years old. I remember staying up late night and I was like pondering, I have to tell PayPal that I am 18 years old. And I thought, man, should I do it? And I was like, yes, I'm going to tell PayPal I'm 18 years old. And I was selling anything and everything under the sun. I was selling stuff from my house. When I ran out of stuff selling from my house, I would ask random people that I would meet, "Do you have stuff in your garage? Do you have trash that I can sell online?" I'm a commission-only salesperson. So very quickly, I started learning the art of selling. And I also realized that when someone says no to an offer, it's not no to me. It's that they are not in the right place to take advantage of what I have to sell. So I never felt like I was rejected. And I believe that that's one of the superpowers I was very gifted with. so I could sell stuff. So anyway, that was like maybe 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. Then I discovered the art of digital marketing. And until then, I have tried every single business model under the sun. MLM programs, network marketing programs, get rich quickie programs, home-based programs, how to save electricity on your bills, to potions, lotions, pills, weight loss, everything. I'd seen it all. And then I remember early on, I met this mentor and he said, if you master the art of lead generation, where so many people are coming to you instead of you are going to them, you'd never be poor. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay, so like, if I can have the ability where people are coming to me, because before my business model was, I meet someone, I'd say the line, you look like a sharp person. Do you keep your options open? You want to go for a coffee? And I'd go there with my notepad. I still have the notepad, and my pen, and I'd show them this plan on how they can get rich. And I'd show the EBIS, the Robert Kiyosaki, the quadrant. And I'd say, you're right now an employee. I can show you how to become self-employed. So I was doing those pitches nonstop. Back then, for all the young kids watching this, we used to have something called DVDs, remember? DVDs, and I used to take DVDs and I used to hand them out at networking events. And then I would say to the person, hey, my phone number's in the back, call me. And I did make a few sales like that, but I quickly realized there was no leverage there. And the reason why I talk about leverage in all of my books in creating wealth online is because I used to go to university and college, and I remember looking at the college professors, and they were teaching business, but they never ran a business. Right? Or I would go to university.
Head smart.
Yeah, they were just book smart. I remember one of my college professors, he went to Cambridge, and I had asked him, hey, so how many businesses do you have? I was thinking like he's going to tell me he's like super wealthy. He's got like all these secret businesses. And he responds with like, do you know how risky a business is to start? And I remember thinking to myself, am I stupid for asking that question? Or is everyone else stupid? I'm like, something doesn't make sense here. And I should like figure out. So I remember like going from college to university. It was the same thing. University, I got introduced to the concept of Think and Grow Rich and the law of attraction. And in my final year of university, I met some mentors that were making a lot of money on the internet. I was at the time 21 years old, 20 or 21 years old, and I dropped out. And the first 9 months, I was glued to the computer trying to figure it out. I was exactly 20 years old. I had just dropped out of university. We just got into the recession, 2009, 2008, 2009, Lehman. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just dropped out of university thinking I'm going to get rich. And now it's recession time. And one of the millionaire mentors, I remember him saying to me that this is the time to get rich. And I was like, how? I've ruined my life because I just dropped out of university. And what is like this internet stuff? So anyway, 9 months I struggled trying to wrap my head around. I go into so much crazy debt. I must have racked up like $40,000 worth of debt. And I had no income. This was like, I was just drowning in debt, I remember. But I couldn't get it out of my head that there were people on the other side on the digital screens making millions of dollars. Something about that, I just couldn't, it just kept me awake nonstop. Because I was like, if there's a faster way, I'm going to go after it. So my first full year online, I learned the art of getting traffic, generating leads. And I was very fortunate. I made $120,000 that year. And it was like, whoa, like this is insane. My second year, I go to this conference and I meet this gentleman called Jeremy Miner, which a lot of people know him. He's very famous on TikTok. He's one of the world's top sales trainers right now. A dear friend of mine for the last 15 years. We've been in touch. And I've kind of seen him grow up. He's seen me grow up because he was the first person. I remember meeting him in Italy and he basically wired me $25,000. And I was like young and I was like, wow. And then we did one deal where he paid me $175,000. Now, when you're 22 years old and you're getting into a new industry that you have no idea, I had no idea what I was doing. And someone wires you 175 grand, it speaks a lot. So I learned that if I can learn specific skills, during that time, I had learned the power of writing emails and doing webinar presentations. And I'll get to that throughout this interview and this presentation. But once I figured out if I can do one-to-many webinars, one-to-many selling instead of one-to-one, then I can be free of trading my time. By the time I was 23, my third year online, full-time, I made $1.2 million. And that was at 23 years old. I remember calling my dad. I said, Dad, I did it. He's like, what? I said, Dad, I'm a millionaire now. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, Dad, it's in my account. He's like, okay, son, don't tell no one. Typical Asian dad. And, he's been like, he was, when he was alive, he was my biggest fan and supporter. And so, yeah, that's basically how I got my start. And, most people know before I turned 30 years old, I made my first $30 million cash from selling primarily info marketing, which is courses, coaching offers, consulting offers. So I was very fortunate. God bless me. All praise to God. Because of timing, I always say this to all of my clients. It's timing, then it's execution. All the other stuff around, like, but do I need to raise funds? I never took any money from like banks or VCs or investors. I mean, my dad invested $5,000 and I had to pay him back. But other than that, I didn't really go raise money from typical institutions, what most people believe. So that's a little bit about, my story.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what would you say in your adventures in business has been the most profitable?
Okay, so it's funny because recently I made a list of all the different industries that I've made $1 million in. Network marketing, affiliate marketing, low ticket products, high ticket products, coaching, consulting, info, agencies, selling through webinars, selling at live events, Bitcoin, and then crypto, altcoins, meme coins, even buying a domain name for NFTs. Okay, NFTs. I'm not going to brag about NFTs. I lost over $250,000 on NFTs, probably maybe close to 300K. NFTs was so funny. The first ever NFT I bought was like $25,000, and I bought 2 pictures of palm trees. And I was like, I just paid $25,000 for 2 pictures of palm trees. And I said, hey guys, I need to take a break from she's going to be laughing at this. I said to Mikey, we need to go to a place where there's lots of palm trees. I kid you not, I've never shared this story ever, okay? I fly to Dubai. I hire a white G-Wagon car, and me and Mikey spend 1 week. I spent like $25,000 for that week. We spent 1 week going around Dubai taking pictures of palm trees. I came back and I realized that was the most dumbest thing I ever did. We did not sell a single palm tree picture. But anyway, that didn't stop me. I ended up spending about $250 to $300K on buying like NFTs, images of random dogs and cats and mouse and monkeys and stupid stuff. And I lost all of that money. So no, I'd say minus $300K on NFTs. So that's how I lost money on NFTs. It was way more than 250 because I was in Dubai and someone said to me that they can sell me the domain name Hodl. Oh. And I'm like, I'm a domain guy. Hodl. Everyone knows HODL. Right. Okay. And I have a rule with my wife, which is like, don't make any big financial decisions after like 12 a.m. And I'm like, she wasn't here with me in Dubai, so maybe that didn't count. So I'm like up at 4 a.m. bidding on this crazy website, okay, like non-stop. I'm like submitting my ETH non-stop, the other person submitting their ETH, and at the end I make the bid. It was like $125,000.
Wow. For
the domain hodl.com. Okay, so with the NFTs I lost a lot of money, and here's what happens at 4 a.m. Imagine I'm like thinking, I have the greatest domain ever. I'm like already messaging Michael Saylor and Mark Cuban. And I'm like, hey, you're going to be speaking to the owner of hodl.com. What's your buying price? And I'm thinking, I'm going to sell this sucker for like $5 million, maybe $10 million. Because Russell Brunson had just paid me $1.3 million for a single domain name I sold to him. I bought it for $5,000. You asked me what's my most profitable venture. It has to be that one. $5,000. that turned into $1.3 million.
Nice.
And he paid me in Bitcoins as well. So what happens with the HODL domain, I'm like waiting for the domain to come through. And I'm like, I had just messaged everyone like Michael Saylor, all these billionaires on X, right? And I'm like, the domain's not coming through. And then I realized, I didn't buy a domain. I bought an image that said hodl.com.
No.
And I'm like, I spent 125 grand on this. So just because I'm sharing with you how I've made money, I've also lost millions of dollars in stupid, dumb things. There's a guy that when I paid Tony Robbins $75,000 to join his Platinum Partnership Mastermind, I got to spend a day with him, take a nice photo with him, which I've used for all of my marketing purposes. There was a gentleman there who was just such a wise man. He's from Texas. His name is Cunningham, and he wrote the book. How to... Basically, I forget the book's name, but it's such an important book. I recommend everyone reading it. The book, we will find the name. It will pop into my head because I always remember names and faces. But his whole message was, how do you get rich and stay rich? It's not by doing more things. It's by doing less dumb things. And that spoke to me. I'm like, okay, So now I have a different filter. I try not to do business with people that have anon, like anonymous, like they don't have any faces. Like,
right.
Like if I've met you, you can kind of feel someone's energy. Like, hey, I can work with this person. I like this guy. I like this girl. You know what I mean? When you're spending years of your life on Twitter, sometimes you can change, and you're like, you don't even know who the person is behind this profile, and so that was like a harsh lesson. So yeah. What was my most profitable venture? It's probably selling the domain name. But the overall biggest investment, I look at it as I started my business with $40,000 of credit card debt. Okay, now, I'm not recommending that you get into debt. If you don't have the money, find ways, get creative. But I got into business with that capital. I mean, you can say I started off with $2,000 because that's what I had. But then I quickly racked up to $40,000 to buy mentorship, to buy programs, to buy affiliate marketing programs, all of these things. And then that turned into $30 million cash collected before I turned 30 years old.
Amazing.
So I look at that, that as my best investment. Sure, I did nearly a 50x in crypto. That was like nearly 8 figures. We don't talk about those things much. Maybe on a private conversation, I'll tell you. But majority of my money I made was through selling info. And now in 2026 and beyond, I'm like, hey, what's new, what's hot, and what's going to be around? Personal brand, owning lots of different offers, which we can talk about, and then AI. And that's why I'm back in, right? Like I could have retired. I tried retiring 2 times. I ended up being really fat, really overweight, and really unhappy with myself. I can't even swim. So I'm jealous. He can swim really well, I heard. And so I can't swim. So imagine like I'm spending all this time on the beaches thinking this is retirement. And I'm like, this is so lame. Like I'm done, and I get like all these skin conditions if I'm on the beach and whatever, heat too much. So I tried retiring 2 times and I realized retirement is not for me. So it doesn't matter how much money I make, whether it's $100 million or $1 billion, I'm just going to be working. I also love it. So, yeah.
Well, it's obvious to me, I can't see you retiring because you have a lot of energy and a lot of ideas always. And you're always learning. Yes. You're always finding other mentors to learn from. And then I also think you have a great passion to share your knowledge and share what you've learned and what worked for you and what might work for others. So I want to step back for a second and just say to the audience, because they might not know the term HODL is, it's kind of like crypto, Bitcoin jargon. Well, it's specific to Bitcoin jargon. Hold on for dear life. So that's what we say when you purchase Bitcoin and you're not selling, you're not trading, you're not, you're just going to ride the wave. I say the roller coaster ride, that is the volatility of Bitcoin. But can we turn this just a little bit to if someone in our audience is listening to you right now and they're thinking, wow, he's got it all together. He's got all these systems and he's got this all figured out. But what about me? I don't even know where to begin. How do I even sell something, or what recommendation would you have for the person who feels a little bit lost?
No, 100%. So first of all, we should define like what is it that you want. Most people, they want money, right? So I used to do events all over the world, and I'd say, hey guys, like how many of you want to make money? And everyone puts their hand up. And then I'm like, how many of you want to make, let's just say a goal of $1 million a year? And everyone's hand would go up. And I would do this everywhere I would go. So we did over 100 events in my 20s. And I'm in my 30s. I don't do as many events. I work with high-end clients one-on-one, but I used to do lots of events in America, Canada, Australia, Vancouver, basically all over the world. UK, Singapore was a huge market for us. And this was so fascinating. The average person wants to make $10,000 a month. That's it. But when you dig deep, they say they want to become a millionaire. Especially when they're into our industry, they all want to make $1 million a year. Then I would lead with this, and I would ask them, and they would say they'd be happy with making 10K per month. Then I'd say, how many of you want to become millionaires? And everyone's hand would go up. And I'd say, okay, now tell me, what's $1 million divided by 365? How much do you need to make every single month to make $1 million a year? You want to be a millionaire? How much is that per month? No, she just said 30,000. Completely wrong. Fail. 100% not recommended. Okay. You need to know the numbers. Why do I say this? Is because that's exactly what we have. Two other guests, by the way. We're not going to mention who these people are, but there's two guests in the audience. So if you don't know your numbers, how do you expect to get there? So people will say, I want to be a millionaire. And then I would ask them, how much is that per month? And they would say 30,000. That doesn't add up. Mm-hmm. So if you're not even clear on that, it's 83,300 and something dollars. So just round it up to $84,000 per month. It's $3,000 per day, $2,738 per day. You should know this, and this should be on the front of your mind. It should be on the back of your mind. It should be on your phone. It's all over my phone. You can see it here. I write it out, visualize it. It's written all over my laptop. You can see my goals on my laptop. Getting to whatever numbers, however much I want to accumulate, all of these things, it's there. And the reason why I say that is because if you're not clear on what you want, you're not going to get it. So you got to get very clear on what is it that you want. Maybe it's just to make $10,000 a month for most people. I know you do virtual events and you do webinars and challenges helping people get to the first 10K, 20K per month. And so that's the first stage. You got to get clear on what is it that you want. Now, if you've never achieved like these big goals, and these are big goals for you, what I found is you have to have a huge why. So any goal that I want to achieve, I always ask myself, why do I want to achieve it? Okay. And the why has to be much stronger than the how. The stronger the why, the easier the how. I said to you the other day, hey, you learn things so fast. You have a duty to go and learn AI. Remember that conversation? And I'm like, the next time I see you, I know because of your high standards, you're going to go out and learn from the courses and crash courses that I've said to you. And so if someone is listening and they're like, I just want to make more money, first of all, get clear on what is it, how much you want to make per month, per week, per day. Secondly, why do you want to make it? So you have strong emotional reasons, not just logical, but emotional reasons as to why you want it. Third, you got to get yourself mentorship, because if you try to do it by yourself and just like watch endless videos on YouTube, this morning I had this thought. I've made over $1 million profit using AI, and I'm about to start sharing using AI Cloner on Wealth Academy, Wealthy Women, all of these programs. I'm about to start sharing with the world how people can start making an extra 10, 20K per month. But I've made $1 million profit from AI. How many other people have made money with AI? And if it was so easy, then why isn't there hundreds of millions of people becoming millionaires using ChatGPT? Does that make sense? If AI was so easy, then why isn't everyone else a millionaire? I've documented and I worked out I've made well over $1 million since ChatGPT came out. And not just ChatGPT, because everyone thinks, oh, AI is just me talking to ChatGPT. It goes way beyond that and the stuff that you can do today. So the lesson that I'm sharing here is if you don't adapt to what's working right now, you're going to get left behind. And most people, they're trying to make money using old ways, using outdated methods. This is what holds them back. So once you kind of got that out of the way, then the next thing is, so what do you sell? Should I sell physical products? Should I sell trinkets, water, makeup, lotions, potions, pills? What should I sell? Should I sell my own products? Should I sell other people's products? So I can break down a few things that I believe are the most profitable, starting with sell what you know. What do I mean by this? Step one is you identify, sell what you know. You identify what do you know that you have been paid for over the last 5, 10, 20, 30 years of your life. What do people naturally look at you and you're an expert, right? And then what have you been paid for that you feel like is an unfair advantage to you that no one else has? Okay, so if you can take and extrapolate on some of these concepts, like, okay, you know what? For example, Dr. Holly, one of my clients, she's been a university college professor for basically decades now. Okay, multiple degrees, super brain box. You know, she teaches kids whatever you teach kids in college and universities these days. Okay, on the side, she was helping students get into Ivy League universities. Okay, so I think she was charging like $500 or $1,000 or something, and she'd work with them for a whole year. As soon as she joined my program, she came in through one of my funnels. A funnel is essentially an online process that turns strangers into customers. So she finds me on social media. She books a call with my team. Within 24 hours, she becomes a high-end client. She's like, I don't even know who you are, but your videos were so good. I was like, okay, this is the process that we have. It's called a funnel. So she comes in through our funnel and she joins our program. And I ask her, what do you know? She says, you know, she knows all of this. She does this program on the side. It's making her some money. And I'm like, okay, what we need to do is we need to craft a process, a system where she can attract parents that can afford to pay a premium. So we increase her price to like $5,000 to $8,000. Bearing in mind, she's had this information and knowledge inside of her head for years and even decades. And most people are sitting around with gold mines in their head. They just don't know how to take it out of their head, put it into an online product, sell it. So I have certain rules, which is create once, sell forever. Some of the programs that I have, like my Inner Circle Mastermind, I launched it in 2014. We're in 2026 now. That sucker has been selling for 12 years. I have a webinar that I did. It's produced over $10 million. I did that when I was like 26, 27. It's like over a decade ago. Last week, she sold someone on that program. I looked at that webinar just in full transparency. I sent it to one of my best friends, Dan Henry. He reviewed it and he gave me a grade and it was F. I was like, how far is that from A? A, B, C, D, E, F. And he had like all these key KPIs, key performance indicators on like rating me, and they were all red. And like one was maybe orange. There was no green. And he responded with, I have no idea how you made so much money with this. And I said to myself, I need to do this properly. So I actually extended my stay here in Dubai for another 2 weeks, just so I can dial that process in.
Right.
So I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. But what I'm saying is I learned a few of these systems. And so first one is sell what you know. Going back to Dr. Holly, this is what happened with her. We increased the price from $500 to $5,000 to $8,000. We started saying, hey, let's target people that already have money. They already want to send their kids to Ivy League schools, and let's create a process. And I have this process called EBM. It's one of my secrets on how to sell anything to anyone, anytime. And EBM stands for education-based marketing. If you want to sell people how to lose weight, if you want to sell people Bitcoin information, if you want to sell people, funnels, if you want to sell people how to get a better smile, if you can educate that person better than everyone else, you're the trusted authority. You're the leader that they will look up to. How do you educate people? By creating content. That's it. It's the number one magnifier. If you're creating content, I'm not saying just do organic content, because I have done paid traffic, which is you spend money on ads. It's, for me, the fastest way to turn $1 into 3 and 5 and 10. You spend money, you give money where money is being sucked into, which is Facebook and Google and Instagram. Because if you, this is also what I teach my clients, instead of trying to go viral and trying to get like millions of views, just get the right few hundred views or the right few thousand views. Most people think that they need to become famous online. You don't. You need to become famous to the right people. You see the difference?
Right.
This event, I was attending this event. We can talk about it because I spent $5,000 and I bought by the cheap general ticket. The VIP ticket was all sold out. It was $10,000. There had 220 people attend this event. So imagine, it's the who's who. A lot of people seem to know who I was. I also was walking around with funnels.com t-shirt on the front and on the back, right? Those people know what funnels are. Those people, I'm an authority in that circle. Does that make sense? Most people there were millionaires or multimillionaires. There were a few, like at my level, multiple 8 figures, and then there was a few that were at 9 figures and beyond. And so I want to be famous to those people. Right? I want to be selective, right? So what we teach in our program is like, you don't need lots of viewers. You need the right viewers. And so stage 1, selling what you know, Dr. Holly took our systems and she sent me a video testimonial the other day. She made over $32,000 in a single month. Now, I don't know about you, but you guys are Americans.
Great.
I don't think most college professors are getting paid $32,000 in a single month, right? And now she's done it once. All she has to do is document the process and rinse and repeat it. And then once she can't do enough, she just needs to hire 2 to 3 team members that can take over.
Perfect.
Does that make sense? So that's cool. That's selling consulting offers or coaching offers, or basically selling digital offers. Sell what you know is you're turning your experience and expertise into products and services. The next one would be some sort of, I call it PSA, professional services agency. So it's basically taking what you know, and instead of just selling like a course or a coaching offer, you're turning it into an agency where you're going to implement the services. So one is information that you're selling. The next one is implementation. So almost every single person listening to this right now and watching this right now, you have information in your head that not only can you just package up into a course or a coaching offer, you can also package it up as an agency offer where you just do it for people. So the way the pricing systems work is typically, let's just say a course is anywhere from $100 to $2,000. You can sell those easy, and I recommend anyone that wants to get to at least $1,000 a day, get yourself a course. You sell the course for like even $500. You need 2 measly sales a day. That's $1,000 a day. It's $30,000 a month. It's over 300 grand a year. That should be one of the first things that you do in your business when you're starting off. Okay, like you find your expertise, you find your experience, basically. So once you have like a course, even if you don't want to sell a course, you want to go straight into high ticket. So courses are typically $100 to $2,000. When you give your time to people, then you can start selling coaching programs. This is from $2,000 to typically $10,000, maybe even $25,000 if you're a really big shot. Okay, obviously I've been doing this stuff for over 15 years. That's why I can charge, a lot more. So then a mastermind program is where you bring people together and they're paying to be in a room with you. And these you can charge anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 to even $100,000. I've been part of programs where I've spent a lot of money with mentors that I look up to, right? Why? Because if I spend $100,000 with someone and I get 1 or 2 insights, and I know I've just saved myself, or I could make an extra $5 or $10 million over the next 1 or 2 years, where else do you get that return? Does that make sense? Right. So I'm always looking for, how can I be part of bigger rooms? So basically, then you have mastermind programs, then you have implementation programs. So there's always a specific, this is why I always have a done for you service. And my done for you service is not cheap. You know, it'll go from like $25,000 to $120K, all the way up to like $250K if someone wants to license all my products and services. So, but I've also gone up the more that I've been in the industry. You know, my wife always reminds me like, hey, you've been longer than everyone else in this industry, so your rates need to go up. Okay, I just saw one of my mentors, actually you know him pretty well. He's charging $5,000 for a 15-minute call. So that means he's charging $20,000 for an hour. And I know he wasn't charging that last year. And so you have to ask yourself, you're listening to this podcast, you have experience, expertise, solutions to people's problems, and people are happy and willing to pay for it. And by the way, that's also something I call the niche finder test. You only want to go after people if the market is ever growing, okay? Mm-hmm. 2, there is an irrational pain or fear in that market. 3, they have the cash to buy, okay? And it's easy to find. So like the best clients that you can work with are people that are online, like creators, people that are willing to make videos like this. Why? Because they always want to grow. For example, you work with a restaurant or a dentist. Unless that business owner has a mind to expand, most business owners aren't like that. They're stuck in a little hamster wheel, right?
They're stuck in the business.
They're stuck in the business and they never think outside. This is why, you know, someone who's a dentist will be a dentist for 25, 35 years of their life. But a smart dentist will quickly realize, hey, they're in the trenches. That's not where you create wealth. You need to get out. You need to systemize the process. You need to expand more. You need to franchise it. You need to build a brand. You need to build an online brand so that you can be the face. And then you have 100 dentists that work underneath you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just saw it with one of my friends who's basically his event I was attending. One of the reasons why he stopped doing the event, he spent $1 million doing this event, and he goes, well, he's got a fried chicken franchise now, and he's expanding like crazy. And this year he's going to do like 15 locations, and by year 5, he's got I think something like 100 plus locations, and he can sell the company for $250 million. And I'm like, whoa, I need to think bigger.
Right.
I'm like, when I spend 25 grand to host an event, I'm like, man, I just dropped 25 grand, or sometimes like 50, 60K. He spent $1 million to host a 2-day event. And
at the Armani, right? Wasn't it at the Burj Khalifa?
It was at the Burj Khalifa and at the Armani Hotel. And it was the most well thought out, planned, highest level mastermind event. And then like all the food, just everything was just like so high caliber. And I was like, this guy's just like, what on earth he's doing? And I thought, they didn't even do a big pitch. It's not like he was trying to sell you something at the event. And it was just such an amazing experience, you know? So much so that he's extended his flights. And I was like, okay, well, I need to extend my flights. And I need to spend as much time. Yeah, he's super inspiration. Yeah, he's one of my biggest inspirations right now. Even like I said to you, oh, I need to double down on my personal brand. Not double down, 10 to 20x my personal brand. It's because of him. Like, I had no idea I was even going to be like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to make all this content. I kind of got a little flick last year when I saw Alex Hormozi with his, his $100 million launch. Like, that sparked a fire. But then seeing it in person, I was like, whoa, like I need to go all in on personal brand. Because I saw him, I had met him 5-6 years ago around COVID time. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he was even making 50 grand a month. Like, I've always been making at least 100, 200 grand a month, like all the time. It's like my little minimum standard, right? So, and then I've been, focused on investments and crypto and stuff like that. So I didn't really pay much attention to him, but then me and him, we kind of built a friendship on some mutual things that we were discussing what's happening in Gaza and Lebanon. And then when I heard about this event, I jumped on. And then I'm like, whoa, he's such a big deal. I'm like, this is so crazy. Wow, like everyone loves him. Wow, there's 200 people that flew in from all over the world. And so the craziest thing he was talking about was, it's not crazy now that I've normalized it, but he was basically saying how, because of his personal brand and the trust he's built, people just want to invest. People just want to throw money at this guy non-stop. Okay, like
he's earned their trust.
He's earned their trust at such a high level where I'm like, and then he's talking about, because of his personal brand, he's been able to go and invest in different companies at a way lower rate. So imagine this bottle of water, this company is worth $100 million and they're selling their shares. You would pay, say, $1 million to get one share, but because of him, his personal brand and his skill set, that's public, he could get it for maybe 25%
discount,
a huge discount. And for me, I was like, whoa, the last 100+ companies that I've invested in, I did not get those favorable terms. And I'm like, whoa, how much does that cost me? Right? And so as soon as I identify, okay, how much does it cost me, or I'm getting left behind, I just have to come up with, okay, here's 5 reasons or 10 reasons why I want to do this. And that's why I'm going harder on personal brand, on content creation. And anyone listen to this, you're never too young or you're never too old to start putting yourself out there, right? And so this is what I recommend people do. If you want to make your first $5,000 to $10,000 a month, figure out what skills do you know, and then how do you package it up into a product or service, and then once you package it up as a product or service, then you create content that's feeding people into this. Okay.
Right.
So if you're selling Bitcoin consulting programs, okay, now come up with 20, 50, 100 different topics, or it could be like 5 topics and you're saying the same thing, but from 100 different angles. How do you get 100 different angles? Find 100 people that are investors in Bitcoin and tell them how did they get into Bitcoin and why they're into Bitcoin and what are the mistakes people make in Bitcoin. Does that make sense? Absolutely. And then all of that traffic comes to you. But now, because you're hosting the podcast, you're seen as an authority, as an expert. Does that make sense? Absolutely. And then once you've started building a bigger audience, your first 1,000, your first 10,000 subscribers, then you can host a live event and get your first 50, 100 people in the live event. And now these people have traveled all over because they've been watching your videos, right? Mm-hmm. That's what happened to me. That's when I launched my first mastermind. So what had happened was I was making a few $1 million a year, 23, 24 years old, 25, I think. I host an event. At that event, I remember very clearly, I had flown over 14 different speakers. It was over the top. 84 people came in. I spent, I think, something like $60,000 or $70,000 to put this event on. I flew my friends. I wanted all the people that inspired me when I was a kid. I wanted them to be at this event.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I just made a note and I was like flying these people business class. I was like, hey, I'm going to pay for your flights and hotel. They're like, why? I'm like, you don't know this, but 5 years ago you inspired me and I was dead broke and now I'm rich and I can pay for all of you. So all of this stuff happens. And one of my close friends, he lives in Dubai, by the way. I should introduce you to him. You'd like him. He comes up and he says, what are you selling? I said, oh, no, I don't need to sell anything. I'm like, well, why should I sell anything? These people have paid. And they were paying like $500 or $1,000 to attend. He goes, no, you have to sell something because people are waiting to be sold. I'm like, what? He said, when people are flying all the way, you need to make an offer because they want more of you. And in a moment of panic, I said, will you work for me? And you're my copywriter, so you come up with the offer.
Oh, nice.
And he's like, I'm like, and you have 1 hour. And there was a girl that was working on my team. I said, you find a slot to put me in. And so he's there in the corner, like whacking up this offer. I take this offer, I get on stage. I didn't even review the slides. Okay. Forgive me. I was really young, 24, 25 years old. I'm on stage. There's like, a bunch of people here. And I'm like going through the slides and I'm like, what on earth is he talking about? There's like a picture of a rocket. And I'm like, well, you can take the rocket ship instead of taking the train or the underground, the subway. And then the next one, it says, do you want to spend 7 days with me in Spain? And I'm thinking, I don't even know these people. I don't want to spend
Nice.
7 days with them in Spain. Anyway, I'm going through this, going through all the slides. I have zero idea what the offer is. Again, remember, my staff created it. I ran on stage and I'm presenting it. And then at the end, it's like, he says it's £12,500, which is basically 20,000 US. And I said, well, how many of you are interested? You know, and they all raised their hand up. I said, well, if you want it, then go to the back of the room. And I thought, man, if I get like, 3 or 4 people, it's cool. I think 15 people ended up buying. I did 15 times 20. Yeah, I did close to 200 or 250K. And I was like, this is insane. And then I realized I don't want to spend 7 days in Spain with these people. Even if they paid me that much money. So I remember my team had to take one by one, all of them outside. And I was like, hey, listen, I know you guys just bought this, but listen, you don't need to go to Spain. We can just do it in London. Are you guys all okay with that? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So that was my first ever breakthrough of live events and masterminds. So I go online. I have a mentor, right? I've always had mentors. At least one mentor that I've been always very close to. These are like people that I can just speak very confidentially, right? So I message and I'm like, hey, so this is what just happened. I just made all this money. He goes, double your price. I was like, what? He's like, double your price, because if you did it offline, you've just now validated people want you. I said, yeah, people loved it, man. They were running over to buy. He goes, well, double your price. And I was thinking, like, what if no one buys that? I kid you not, I just took the offer, put it online, and I turned it into 40,000 US dollars. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like $40,000, who's buying this? I proceeded to sell over the next probably couple of years, 168 people. That offer alone has done over $12 million. This is just from selling coaching.
That's amazing.
Group coaching. Out of them, probably around 20 of them upgraded, 20, 25. Now it's a lot more, but 20, 25 upgraded to like a 100K plus package where they met me in person and they got to hang out, got business consulting and do other partnership deals. But had I not done that event, had I not sold Mastermind, right? And that's how I got into the Mastermind business. Prior to that, when I was around, I guess 22 or 21, when I just started making money 15, 16 years ago, I was at an event and I built a relationship with the host of that event. And that's when I realized, relationships are the key. Sometimes you have to pay for it. Sometimes you have to join someone's mastermind just to get access to it, right? And I had asked this guy, his name was Mark. I said, hey, like one day I want to speak at your events. And I was thinking like, this is my 5-year vision, like 5 years down the line. And I remember like he was doing an event 1 weekend at a time. So he had 2 weekends booked. One weekend he had like 700 people. The next weekend he had 700 people because that's how much the room can hold. I make the intention to speak at like one event. He goes to me, next week I'm doing an event. You can come and speak. And before I know it, I'm in front of 750 people at like 21, 22 years old, and I'm speaking. And I also saw the power of two things. The power of being an authority in your market. You want to become known as the authority. The people that make the most amount of money in any industry, you have generalists at the low. Okay. Hey, I do digital marketing for everything. Okay, like what do you do? Oh, I do SEO, blah, blah. That's your generalist. These are people that won't usually make more than 10, 20K a month unless they're really high end, okay, or they're very well known. You don't want to fight for being a generalist. Then you have the specialist, okay. This is like the Facebook ad specialist, or like they're really good at this one thing, and they're known for it. Then you have like the expert. Okay, so they're branding themselves as a go-to expert. It's like, who's the funnels expert? Oh, that guy. After that, you have the authority expert. Okay, and right at the top, who do you have? You have the celebrity authority expert. So in any market that I choose to go into, I always ask myself, how do I become right at the top, the celebrity authority expert? Or if I publish other people's offers, so I'll partner up with someone and I'll make them into a superstar. Okay, and I'm behind the scenes. I've been doing that since I was 22 years old, from Jeremy Minor days. So I have some of my closest friends, they do this right now. They print millions of dollars every single month, like clockwork. So they've mastered this model and then they share it with me, right? And so how do I help someone become right at the high end? There's a whole process to go through where they get PR, they get traffic, they start building their following, they start publishing content, they start having multiple offers, they start associating themselves with lots of other known people. So when you're right at the top, you get to charge the top prices. Does that make sense? That's why I can charge 120 to 150K for private coaching. Do you want to get to 8 figures? Do you want to do it with funnels and paid ads? Okay, well, I've done it for over a decade. I can fast track. And someone that has the right amount of, someone that has money and drive, they'll see the opportunity and they'll be like, I'm in.
Right.
And that's who you're always targeting.
Right.
Okay. Not always, but that's who in your marketing, you want to make sure that there's elements where you're targeting to the people that have money. Okay. So this is the top 3% of the pyramid. The top 3% are always in a buying state. If I said, how many of you want to buy a house now? Out of a group of 10 people, 3% will always be in a buying state. Out of 100 people, 3 people will always say they want to buy a house right now. I actually want to buy a house right now in Dubai. Okay. 3% will, if you say, who wants to buy a car? 3% of the room will always be in a buying state. Even if BTC is going through a little volatile period right now. Okay, how many of you want to buy Bitcoin right now? Me. Okay. Are you guys getting this?
Yep.
So that 3%. Now, most people focus on that 3% of active buyers. What you want to do is focus on the 97% that needs to be warmed up to become the 3%. Does that make sense?
Right.
And that, converting that 97% is the art of conversions. And if and when you master the art of converting 97% of people into your products and services, that's the holy grail of making money and creating wealth. That's it. Like, once I figured this out, this was over a decade ago, mashallah, you won't ever be poor if you understand that formula. Your ability to turn strangers into high ticket sales. That's what will make the biggest difference and makes all the difference. The reason why most people aren't achieving their goals online when they're trying to start out, whether it's selling what you know, selling professional services, doing affiliate marketing, selling other people's stuff, whatever you're trying to do, is they haven't understood the concept of how do you take someone from a stranger into a buyer. And there's a whole art and science to it. The people that have generated hundreds of or thousands of buyers like myself, they have mastered this art. If you master this art of presenting on webinars, doing sales presentations, VSLs, writing emails, writing sales copy, you'll always be able to turn a stranger into a customer. Today, I'd say you're one of my top 30 high-end clients. 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, heck, 1 year ago, 1 year ago, you were just a stranger. You had never met me. You had never heard of me. Maybe you didn't like me. Maybe you didn't like me. It doesn't matter. Okay. But 1 year ago, you had no idea. Today, we're here in Dubai. You've met my team members. You just met my wife and my baby girl. I met your husband a few times. Do you understand how that works? Now, you want to develop and master this ability. And for the people listening, this is the greatest skill in all of sales and marketing, is how do I turn strangers into customers? You do that, what's the process? Through funnels, through webinars, through the challenges and the summits, where you can, remember what I said? EBM, education-based marketing. You met me through a webinar. What was I doing on that webinar? I was educating the people. Does that make sense? And then you and another gentleman said, I like that guy. I trust him. I want to learn more. And then you come into my funnel and you come into my world. And then you're like, wow, what is all of this? Wow, that's a lot of awards. How does this work again? Explain to me. By the way, what do you sell? Who are you again? I need to work with you. Does that make sense? It's the same thing that just happened with me coming to this live event. Okay. I meet someone on, in person and then on Instagram, and I have a complete different relationship than this. And then I'm like, whoa, what do you do again? You do marketing? What? Oh, you want $5,000 for this event? I was actually thinking, how is this guy going to get 50 people? I was thinking, I think he might get 20 people. He's just trying to get 200 people. I just thought, there's not 200 people that will pay him this much money. There was 228 people that wired 5 to 10K, and they didn't have to sell you on the phone. There was no big. And then I'm at the event. Before the event even started, as I was having a conversation, I was like, man, I would love to do some sort of long-term partnership with you. And he said, he winked at me and he said, we have similar values. We should do something together. And I was like, I'd love to be business partners with this guy. Because he just also was talking about how he's blown so many companies from like 20K a month to like, millions of dollars a month right now. And I'm like, but do you see, I was once upon a time a stranger in his world. And so it doesn't happen overnight, but it is the most powerful, profitable skill you can ever master in your life, which is turning strangers into customers. And we do that through the process of funnels, right? So what is funnels? It's simply a process of where you're educating your ideal prospects, taking them through a journey where they feel compelled to want to work with you.
When you were sharing about the story of the guy telling, well, you went and did your mastermind, and then the guy says, you need an offer right now. And so you go and you say, okay, do the offer right now. All I could think was Ty Lopez talks about the personality type that takes action. And that's what, when I saw you as the guest speaker or presenter, I could tell you had the implementation down, the system down, which is what I was looking for, because I knew, so my block is I am very much an in-person person. Okay. So like when we started talking, it was like, okay, I'll come and meet you right away. Within like 2 weeks, we were in person together. And so that's been the shift that I've been going through right now, is that I've been doing all of these in-person consultations, kind of like the professor you were talking about, these one-on-one. And I've been doing that for 8 years, and helping women, helping men too, actually, just to better understand this new asset class that is Bitcoin. Actually, we've done it with commercial real estate, we've done it with other assets as well. I'm very much an in-person. Any knowledge that I have, I'm very eager to teach, to share. I do not have a scarcity mindset of, oh, this is privileged information, I can't tell anybody. But my problem has been that it's very much in person, one at a time, or maybe a very small group. And so the shift that I'm having now is on a global span and through a digital, to be able to reach more people. And I've also never been a fan of social media, because again, I want to be with the people in person. I'm a very authentic person, and I felt like social media is very, look at all the best pictures of me at all times and what I'm eating. It just seemed very superficial, very, I don't even know, just not who I am and not what my values are. So that's been a very difficult shift for me to say, okay, I have to adopt now social media in order to use it as a tool to get this, I guess you could say, opportunity out. I feel like in a lot of, in the Bitcoin crypto space, women have not fully maybe had the teachers like the men have. The men can all relate to each other and they're very technical speaking, and I'm not.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I saw you presenting and I saw how your implementation, you had these systems, I knew immediately I needed your help. And then I attended your webinar, even though I was at an in-person
Event.
commercial real estate conference at the same time. But and you didn't really have to sell me at all. I mean, I knew at the first moment I'm listening, I'm like, okay, it said somewhere book a call. How do I book that call right now? I just wanted to get, and I always say I'm very much, I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want to waste my own time. I want to cut to the front of the line. What do I need to do? Get me in your queue. Let's start working and implementing right away. But I appreciate how you are such an action taker. And the man told you at your mastermind, you need an offer. Okay, right now. Do it right now. We're presenting in 1 hour. I just love that. I'm very much a slow mover.
Have you not heard of that story before?
No, wow. I've never heard that.
That was... it's carried on in all areas of my life. Like obviously you've met my team. Anyone that comes into the team, don't apply if you can't handle the pressure. They are going to be put under pressure, because if I'm going to perform and I want to perform at the highest level, I want everyone around me, to basically be super, super high performers, And so, I like it. I love it. It's what gets me excited. Anything else, I don't get excited as much, and environment plays a huge aspect, right? Like just like this Dubai story. Think about it. I came for 2 days to meet someone. It ended up being 4 days. It ended up being 2 weeks. Now it's going to be 4 weeks. I'm here, and that's the power of when you can shift your identity. So I want to give you a perspective, if you want, that's going to help you a lot, which is, think to yourself, from now on, I want to do one to many, because one to many is going to lead to one to millions. Okay. So one to many means, hey, for example, I have a rule, which is I tend not to meet someone one to one, unless I'm doing content or podcast. Why? Because that specific time I'm going to do one to one. I can also have 10 other people that have been wanting to meet me. They can also come, right?
Exactly.
I was sharing, I don't drive. I don't like to travel anywhere unless it's like a place like this. And if people want to meet me, no, I tell them, you come to me. That's why I always stay in nice hotels, like the one I'm staying in now. And it's huge, because I can say, hey, why doesn't everyone come here? Right. I also have a rule back in London or wherever. If it's like longer than 20 minutes of driving, I'm not going to drive. If it's like my wife and baby, that's fine, but like I'm not driving. It's just, you can use that time to meditate, pray, learn something. You can, unless you're one of those people where you're in the car and you're talking and you're learning and you've got, maybe a podcast, listen to our podcast, okay, where you're learning. But you have to ask yourself, that time that you're just spending, you're never going to get that back. But if you spend that time, 10 hours, making 10 hours of videos, now you can impact 1,000 people, 10,000 people. And didn't you just say you want to help more people? And here's the thing. If you help more people, you'll make more money. I tell all my team members, I say, you guys want to make more money? They're like, yeah. I'm like, your job is just to help me. You help me, I will help more people. I will sell more people, right? And you help me, help them. If you take care of my customers and you do a good job, everyone on my team gets to share the rewards. And so that's a perspective. Why is this important? Long time ago, I had met this gentleman. I was, making a few $1 million a year, maybe making close to $10 million. He had found out and he wanted to meet me. So this was someone, I think, in their 50s. So he comes along and he's basically being introduced to me because he's like in the finance space. He can help you with different things, saving money, investing money, taxes, all of that stuff. And I'm wearing a hoodie, and he comes up, you know, with a 3-piece suit, with his Mont Blanc pen and his journal and a briefcase. And he looks at me, he's like, wow, you dress like this? And I said, wow, did you dress like this to meet me? I'm like, I'm no one special. So we meet in this hotel. And as I'm learning more about him, I find out that for the last 30 years, so I wasn't even 30 back then, so before I was even born, he would be driving up and down the country to meet people one-on-one. And I was like, why would you do that? Driving up and down the country, meeting people one-on-one. I said, why don't you get them to come to you? Through a webinar. He said, what's a webinar? I said, it's a presentation you do one too many. So you do it once, and it lives on the internet. And if anyone wants to learn, they go to the webinar. Okay, so if I met you outside, and you're like, hey, tell me what is funnels.com. I'd say, no, there's a video. Go to funnels.com, and you can click on it, and it's going to tell you everything you need to know. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to spend 30 minutes, an hour, taking you out for coffee, telling you what a funnel is.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
That sucker has been on there for the last 7 years, and he educates people non-stop. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this gentleman decides to come in and says, okay, I need your help. So he comes to one of my events. First program he buys is like 120 grand coaching program. This was my rates 10 years ago. Okay, it's increased a little bit more. So 10 years ago, and he's got a son. He called me up and he's like, hey, I've got a son. He's like 16 years old. Can you mentor him? And I'm like, man, I don't like doing. There's only 2 kids that I've mentored that are that age. Actually 3. All 3 of them, from what I know, have done well. One of them actually lives in Dubai. Mm-hmm. He's done $5 million, just bought a $200,000 Porsche. Did you see the message I posted in the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, you sent that to me.
He actually lives in Dubai. I just met him. Mm-hmm. And I think he's like 22, 23 years old. So he was like probably one of 3 or 4 kids that I've mentored that were under the age of 18. As far as I know, all of them have done extremely well. And so, anyway, his father says, hey, if I buy your program, can my son go through it? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And he messages me, about a year later or something. His business has completely transformed. He doesn't do any more one-on-one in-person meetings. And I had said, I'd love to see you. He goes, no, you have to come to me. I said, what? He goes, no, you taught me.
That's awesome.
And then he kind of blew up on social media because of one webinar. So anytime, I find myself repeating the same thing, and maybe you do, maybe your viewers, someone asks you, what do you do? And you're saying the same thing over and over again. It's probably because you don't have an optimized one-to-many selling system.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. This could be a webinar. This could be a 5-day challenge. This could be a VSL. This could be a 3-day summit. This could be a series of emails that educates your ideal prospects on who you are. Does that make sense? And here's the beautiful thing about a one-to-many. This is why I said, create content like this, YouTube content, because once you create it, it lives forever. Mm-hmm. So remember, wealthy people, they create once, it sells forever, sells many times, right? And this is the business that we want to get into. You create content once, it educates people non-stop. Same way with the funnels. Once I figured out, I was in the car with you and we were talking about just one of the funnels that we have. We have right now 27 different money-making funnels in our businesses. Just one of them, a 5-day challenge funnel, a specific one, we spent $15,000. Yeah, over $440,000. Imagine spending $15,000 in a month, and then at the end of the month, you have $440,000.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And it was from 320 front-end customers. Mm-hmm. And I remember sending her the stats this morning, and I was like, oh, I need to do this throughout 2026, way more of this, right? And I'll use my face on them, and then some of them I can use my clients' faces. Some of them I can do partnership leads. Some of them I can license out my content, so it's their face and not mine. So we can now appeal to different people. Does that make sense? And this is the key. This is what I realized, because once you do one-to-many and now you're making money, guess what you can do? You can reinvest in paid traffic. Now you go from one to many to one to millions. Okay, that's the key.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words to share with anyone? And then also, how do people reach out to you if they're
so
interested?
I'm easy. You know, you can find me on Instagram or YouTube. Shakir Hussain. Website is just funnels.com or wealthacademy.com if you're like a brand new. But you know, if you want to learn more, you can go and check out. I've got tons of free YouTube videos. And my last thing is, take action now on whatever your heart, whatever you feel like, oh, I need to do this. Whether it's content creation, whether it's partnerships, making deals, putting yourself out there, because this is the easiest time and the best time. Like, I'm so excited. I feel like a kid. You know, I feel like I'm 21 back again, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can do this with AI. I can do what used to take me like, you know, it used to take me like 2 to 3 months to write a single webinar presentation. Now I can do it in under like 3 days with like maybe 3 hours of focus with AI. Like,
right.
It's insane.
It is amazing.
It's never been this exciting to be alive, because the abundance of opportunities. So take advantage of what you have right now. Take advantage, you know, if you're not putting yourself out there, put yourself out there. If you're shy and introverted, I get it. Learn to get out of your comfort zone, you know, and put yourself out there. Yeah. So
amazing.
Let's wrap it up.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for joining us.
Awesome.
And
thank you.
until next time.
Next time. See you guys. Woohoo. Yeah, you guys can clap it up.